Welcome back to yet another episode of The Big Hit.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, everyone, to The Big Hit.
Welcome to today's episode of The Big Hit. I'm Katie Dotz.
Sports Jeopardy. I'm assuming everyone already knows how to play Jeopardy,
and welcome to The Big Hit's 2019 edition of Scrap for Your City.
Hello all, and welcome back to another season of The Big Hit. I know it's a new season, but we got some familiar faces back at it. We only lost one member, Mr. Michael Costa. That's a big personality to miss here on The Big Hit. We're going to be missing him, but I know we're coming back and better than ever with this week's fantasy football segment. Going to take up the whole show. We have Steve Langdon Jr. and Mr. Jeff Hart. They're here to give some disappointments. You guys had some stars. You were just saying, Steve, you were just telling me that you had a heartbreaker this week.
Yeah, I lost to the director of The Big Hit, Elliot Hicks, this week by 0.5. He left Sammy Watkins on the bench. I'm sure we'll talk about Sammy Watkins a little bit later, but left him on the bench, and Michael Thomas getting a boatload of points, but unfortunately not able to get the win. But
well, you're not the only one who needs a shoulder to cry on, Steven, because, I somehow, with Deshaun Jackson on my team, who had 35 points, still managed to lose in my league because, some other players. But we'll get more into that.
Yeah, we'll get more into fantasy as the show goes on. But
exactly. We might as well just dive right into it because there were some players this week that obviously were breakout, like you said, Sammy Watkins on the bench. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about these breakout stars that might have been unexpected with the first week of fantasy football in the books. Who do you think was the biggest breakout star of week one?
Deshaun Jackson, by far. To me, it's not even a question because 35 points in his return to Philly. A lot of guys said Deshaun Jackson was a shell of himself. He wasn't the same because he's always relied on his freakish athleticism and speed. But 35 points? I mean, to me, that's just crazy to think that he could do that. But I kind of I had a feeling about it, so I put him in my starting lineup over Antonio Brown. Thank God. Yeah. But I put him in there just because it was against his former team, the Redskins. It was his first time back to the Eagles. It was going to be emotional for him. And sure enough, came out, balled out. Although I was a little concerned for Philly. I don't think they should have struggled against the Redskins that much. I have respect for Keenum in that offense, but I don't think they should have been able to put up 20 or more against them, and they somehow managed to. But that's at least for me. What do you got, Steve?
Yeah, I got John Ross from Cincinnati. I mean, you talked about Deshaun Jackson, and then you also had Sammy Watkins, who had a gigantic game. But, I mean, John Ross, 7 catches, 158 and 2 TDs. He had a third of his points in one game in 1 week than he had all of last year.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All of last year, he had around 60 points in fantasy and had over 20 this week. And then not only that, but his overall ownership went up by over 50%. Went from 54.1 to 50. He went from 4% to 57.4 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So for him to break out in a big way, and I know Andy Dalton had a heck of a game as well, career high in passing yards as well. So I think overall he had to be a big breakout performer for me.
For sure. I mean, everybody thought with AJ Green out, everybody thought Tyler Boyd was the man. I know I knew a lot of people that started Tyler Boyd that game because, I mean, he's going to catch all the balls. He's a pretty good player. Wide receiver, probably wide out one for them. But that might have been why John Ross opened up so well.
Well, I do have to say one thing. You kind of transitioned me. There was another guy who I was thinking about putting on my number one, and that is Andy Dalton. I think a lot of people are underserving how good the Bengals have potential to be because of our division and the history, obviously. They just got rid of Marvin Lewis. Let's get something straight. Cincinnati, that was long overdue. Marvin Lewis, not a single playoff win, 13 years. I want you to let that soak in. Pathetic, anemic, disgusting. He's gone. Andy Dalton had some years where he looked like an all-pro. There was a year we thought the Bengals could win it all, but they choked. I blame that on coaching. They still have talent. I'm not saying Cincinnati's going to make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong there. But Jake, you were talking about AJ Green's gone now. Tyler Boyd's about all they got. They got Eifert.
Think about how great that passing attack could be if they have John Ross, who was the 9th overall pick and an absolute track star. I mean, broke the
killed 40, the combine.
Yeah, broke the 40-yard record. Yeah. And so if you have him, you got Tyler Boyd and AJ Green.
Tyler Eifert, not to mention.
Yeah, Tyler
Eifert.
That's a nasty receiving core that Andy Dalton has.
They get Joe Mixon running on the ground. They get Giovanni Bernard going. I think you can get the run game going, the field opens up for Andy Dalton for sure. 100%, I agree with that.
Oh, absolutely.
I had a big breakout guy, rookie. I had 2 rookies on my list, my breakout list. But first one was T.J. Hawkinson for the Detroit Lions. I mean, we knew he first round pick. I mean, after they signed Jesse James too, I know Jesse James is more of a blocking type of tight end. But I figured, why would you go for the first round on a tight end? You know what I'm saying? And I think perfect game. He was 6 for 9. And he had 31 yards and a touchdown. I didn't expect that breakout, especially from in the beginning. I mean, because Eric Ebron, when he did play for the Detroit Lions, he sucked. Like, it's compared to what he was capable of last year with the Colts and Andrew Luck. Seeing him in Detroit, he had how many touchdowns last season? 14. Eric Ebron. That was total with Detroit. He had like 7 or 8. In his first 3 years, so. I
love T.J. Hawkinson. T.J. Hawkinson, my favorite tight end in this past draft. I've been high on T.J. Hawkinson since the very beginning. You know, just watching him at Iowa was just incredible. He reminds me so much of a Gronkowski because he's able to catch that ball with so much ease, and he has the size too. If he could gain like 10, maybe 15 more pounds, that is a disgusting player. I mean, already over 100 yards. You talk about Eric Ebron. You know, that was the big question mark is, are they going to draft a tight end? You know, T.J. Hawkinson is the player that they need, but are they going to let Ebron, you know, kind of haunt them in their dreams? But an excellent pick so far, and I think an absolute breakout performer nonetheless. And, you know, if you didn't know T.J. Hawkinson before week 1, you know his name now.
Exactly.
Well, and I think the Detroit Lions offense has been underrated. Kerryon Johnson, you also got Galladay out there receiving, and now Hawkinson, you can have a red zone threat. And Matt Stafford is a respectable. I think he's somewhere upper.
He's an
middle.
average. He's an
upper average.
Yeah,
he's not
upper
quite
average.
average, but I think he's a little bit above that. But he's definitely, they had a debate on it. I think he's a franchise quarterback. He's good enough to win you games, and he's definitely going to help you. So I definitely think they're getting underrated. They had a new head coach last year, Matt Patricia.
Well, see, I think it's a whole fact of the matter that Matthew Stafford was the first overall pick, so everyone was expecting, you know,
huge
playoff wins after wins. But the Detroit Lions haven't had many players. I mean, besides the players that they have now, they've had Megatron, and
that's it.
That's about it.
Reggie Bush for like a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, we were getting into the bare minimum, but as far as Matthew Stafford has been, a phenomenal player, you know, very high expectations coming in first overall pick, but I think he's done a solid job with the Lions.
Yeah, 100%. Any other breakouts you guys want to mention before we head on to the terrible disappointments? You know, there were a lot of disappointments. You were talking about some disappointing players on your team earlier. You got any to share for the world?
Well, I know Steven and I have one in common. We were talking about this before the show, so I'm going to just get this out of the way. Steven, you feel free to add on as you see fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Devonta Freeman. Let me get something straight. All y'all who are bloviating about the Falcons and the Dirty Birds and they going to be going to the Super Bowl, get out of here with that. They ain't going nowhere. They haven't looked the same in years. Matt Ryan last year barely connected with Julio Jones in the end zone. People were talking about the Falcons. Devonta Freeman's healthy. Their defense is coming back. They got Vic Beasley. I mean, they could really make some noise. They came out and laid an absolute egg against Minnesota. I mean, just looked deplorable. Devonta Freeman, 19 yards and a fumble. Really? I mean, and he was on First Take talking about how, once we get back healthy, the run game comes back, we're going to be doing all this. They're also missing Tevin Coleman. I think they're underrating that. Tevin Coleman did a lot for them out of the backfield and receiving. So for that, laid a huge egg. 4 points week 1. You cost me my first game. I hope you know Devonta Freeman. Okay.
Yeah, so this is what goes in. He has all the perfect makings of a big disappointment. He was owned by 99% of fantasy leagues. 99%, and I'm not even talking about just ESPN. I'm talking about Yahoo. I'm talking about everywhere. And you, like Jeff said, 19 yards. Oh my gosh! I think running backs can run backwards for 19 yards and still get up more points than freaking Devonta Freeman.
And it's not like he doesn't have a quarterback and wideouts to spread the ball. It's not like it's just him. He has Matt Ryan and Julio, who, by the way, didn't exactly ball out themselves. Threw a couple interceptions, did not look good against Minnesota, but still.
It looks like a running back by committee. And I know that the Falcons have always been a running back by committee for the last several years, but I mean, at least look like you're trying to run the ball efficiently.
Yeah. I'll defend him real quick for a second. I'll just say that Minnesota's defense is fantastic. I think Minnesota's defense could actually be defense of the year this year, #1 defense in the NFL. And they got two new rookies on their offensive line. So it's going to take some time for them to get going. But I mean, that is just disappointing. I mean, but nonetheless, I mean, I would give him I would give him 2 more weeks, and then if he's still doing this, you better get him out of town, off your team, let alone on the bench. Mine, I think we might all agree. Well, you're probably happy about this, but James Conner and Big Ben were the biggest disappointments for me. The whole Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I know New England's defense is fantastic. James Conner had 28 yards on 21 carries.
I wasn't very happy about the James Conner thing because I had him in my big hit fantasy team. But
fantasy above all.
Yeah,
fantasy above all. But I mean. Oh, yeah, the Steelers look, I mean, that's an entire episode in itself on that, but, I mean, we can talk in a whole hour about how the Steelers looked. I don't even...
Just read my article in the Pen. I will shamelessly plug that.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that game personally, but, I mean, yeah, the entire Steelers offense, we're not going to talk about James Conner. We're going to push him to the side.
I got one better. I got one better than the Steelers. What team have we been talking about all season? What team? Cleveland. This one's for you, because you all have been talking a big game. You got Odell Beckham. You got Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry. You got this killer defense supposed to be top 10. You got Garrett, Olivier Vernon, Denzel Ward. You got all these guys. You guys have been talking all this smack.
And
you get blown out by 30? Oh, yeah. Baker Mayfield. 9.4 points. 3 interceptions. 3. And only 1 touchdown. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about Baker Mayfield being the next guy, the next Brett Favre. Baker Mayfield didn't even look like Baker Mayfield from last year, and we're comparing him to Brett Favre. We talk about the Browns. I have him winning the division. I haven't given up hope yet. There were some things that weren't his fault. His line was injured. There were more penalties in that game than they've had in 10-plus years.
Can we talk about how bad that offensive line looked? Like, it was deplorable. I've never seen an offensive line block worse than the Cleveland Browns this past week. And not to forget, Cam Robinson, the left tackle, getting ejected in the first half by kicking an opponent. Are you serious? You're going to kick an opponent? Yeah. Come on.
And to their defense, they were down to their last 5. I mean, they were down to the bare bones.
But how many personal foul penalties did they have? It was insane.
Over 100 yards in penalties.
It wasn't just.
I mean, I don't even blame that on the players. I blame that on coaching. That's discipline. That's lack of discipline, which we expected from Freddie Kitchens.
It wasn't just Baker Mayfield. It was the entire Cleveland Browns.
And
they look like the Cleveland Browns.
They did look like the Cleveland.
And I think people underrate the Titans. The Titans are a good team. Mariota's respectable, and Delaney Walker came back healthy. I mean, they're underrated. They're a good physical team. That's the other thing. They're physical. Those are grown men playing. They've been playing for a while, and they're hungry. And not only that, Cleveland, you put the target on your back when you made all this noise this past season. Everyone is going to give you their 100% just to prove to the league, hey, you're not as good as y'all think you are. You need to get off your pedestal.
Yeah. And I think with time, though, I do think with time that Cleveland will get better. I mean, chemistry needs to grow. Freddie Kitchens' first game ever coaching. So, I mean, we'll see if the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I think we'll all be happy. I mean, I'll personally be happy either way because it's just comical to see them suck. But it's cool. It's good because I have Nick Chubb and Nick. First of all, they ran 2 touchdowns in, and Nick Chubb wasn't either of them. So that's what I'm mad about.
I also have Nick Chubb on my fantasy, my other fantasy league. I also have Nick Chubb, and I was very disappointed in him as well. Yeah. But we're not going to talk.
I had Saquon. I'm all right. Saquon was my guy. He did all right.
Some of us aren't lucky to have the first overall pick.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you just got to know how to use it.
All right. Well, any other big disappointments you guys want to stick on to, or do you guys want to move on and focus on next week?
I think it's time to move on to the next week.
All right. So we will start with we'll have some starts and sits for next week. It's this week by the time you're watching it, because it will be Thursday Night Football. Carolina Panthers against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Thursday night. That's going to be a crap show, so I don't know.
Big rivalry.
Yeah, big rivalry, yeah. Hopefully Tampa Bay can show up. Yeah, football's football.
It'll be competitive.
So a start, any big starters? How many starters?
I got a big starter. I got Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson. Now, let's slow down a little bit on Lamar Jackson. He played against a Miami Dolphins team, let's be honest. I don't even know if Miami Dolphins are even a NFL team at this point. But I put Lamar Jackson because he has another easy opponent this week in the Arizona Cardinals. I expect him to do not what he did last week, but very similar. Mm-hmm. Maybe cut down on the touchdowns, maybe 3 touchdowns and about 250, 300 yards passing. But I expect Lamar Jackson to have another breakout game.
Well, I can't disagree with that because one of the guys I think that all of you should be starting is on the same team, Mark Ingram. I don't know if y'all missed last week against Miami, the absolute onslaught that we saw. They just absolute beatdown. And first off, I want to say I'm sorry to the fans of Miami and the people who live there that you guys have had to deal with this level of inadequacy and incompetence. Players are demanding to be traded.
Yeah, players calling their agents, after the game saying, "Hey, I want out. I don't want to be in Miami anymore." I love, I like Miami as a city, but let's be honest, their sports team are.
Oh, dude, come on! That was my scrap for your stadium team last year, bro. I'm a big Miami guy now.
Marlins have been accused of Moneyball. The Miami Dolphins now. I mean, the Heat, they don't got much. They have Jimmy Butler. They might make the playoffs. So Miami fans, I'm sorry, but Mark Ingram had 107 yards and 2 touchdowns against them, and they're going up against Arizona, whose defense I don't think is that good. They're one of the oldest teams in the league. In fact, I believe they are the oldest. They allowed 27 points last week. I mean, it ended in a tie, so I mean, they put up some numbers, but that was thanks to Kyler Murray's fourth quarter effort, putting up 2 touchdowns in a hurry. So it's probably, I also think that defense is going to get tired. They're going to be on the field too much. They're going to be coming off and on. They're not going to be at meaningful possessions because the Ravens defense is big time people. They just added Earl Thomas to that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they lost C.J. Mosley, Terrell Suggs, but you added Earl Thomas to beef up that secondary. And John Harbaugh's an excellent coach. Regardless of my feelings towards the Ravens because I'm a Seahawks fan, excellent head coach. Top 10 defense almost every season he has been a coach. So they're going to be tired because they're going to be coming on and off the field. So Mark Ingram should have another big game.
I got another running back for you. I got Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is going to have a monster performance, I think, against the Saints defense, who gave up 180 rushing yards last week. To the Texans?
Between Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde, imagine you're running that whole committee down there in L.A. now. Because they got a committee down there.
So you got Todd Gurley. He's going to have another big week this week, and he's going to solidify him as another top 5 back in the league. And that Saints defense is going to look in shambles by the time this game is over because the Rams are going to look very well on the run.
Yeah, I got perhaps the biggest one of the week, and he might be coming back on my list later here on the show. And I will tell you that Mr. Big Chest Antonio Brown in his comeback game in his hometown Miami. If you think Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown are going to tear up that Miami defense, what do you think Tom Brady and Antonio Brown? Antonio Brown is undoubtedly the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's been for the last 7 seasons. He's going to be for the next 3 seasons with Tom Brady passing him the ball. In his comeback game, the Patriots, they're going to show no mercy. They're going to be cocky as all hell about it. They're going to be forcing AB the ball. AB always tears up Miami. AB always tears up Miami, and he had Big Ben passing to him. Now he's got the GOAT passing to him. He's not going to be suspended. Trust me. He's going to be out there practicing. He's practicing. He already practiced today. Drew Rosenhaus already came out on ESPN, said he's thinking things are looking clear, so he's about to tear it up in Miami. I'd start him 100%.
Before we move any further, I can't help myself. Antonio Brown, the #1 receiver in the league. Who's Julio Jones?
Bro, you just said Julio Jones hasn't been catching touchdowns last year. You said it yourself.
Did Antonio Brown lead the league in rushing last year or the year before? I mean, not rushing. Sorry, receiving.
Yeah,
last
Antonio
year
Brown's in the league. He's had over 11,000 yards and 74 touchdowns in the last 7 seasons. No, their numbers are basically even. It's really a toss-up.
I would take Julio and DeAndre over him. I would take Hopkins. Hopkins didn't drop a single pass last season, not a single one.
But he don't got Tom Brady passing to him.
Yeah, but AB is also in a boatload of trouble again. Let me say again.
People are talking about putting him on the commissioner's list. It's not like
He ain't Big Ben. He won't get suspended.
We'll have to see. That remains to be seen. But
it's a touchy subject.
It's a touchy subject, but that's not what this is about.
If he does start, say he's out of trouble. So there.
If he does play, I do agree that's a good pick if he does play. 100%, because Antonio Brown, undoubtedly, I'm not taking it away, top 3 receiver. I'm not trying to put disrespect towards his name, but definitely good. I have another one that Steven and I had. Russell Wilson.
Hey, on my list. Let's go.
Not only because it's Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson, 196 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. He's going up against Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh. It's our defense. What are they going to do? DK Metcalf is going to go up against our corners. He's going to be too big.
He's going to be way too big.
He's too strong.
Look at
Our
Josh
corners
Gordon.
are small. Our corners are too small. They can't handle a guy like DK Metcalf. It's debating. People are debating if he's on the juice or not. Don't care. He's still too big.
Exactly.
And Russell Wilson's going to pick apart our defense because he also runs. Our defense has had a hard time with running quarterbacks. If you look at it, they don't know how to compete against it. So I'm curious to see how he's going to do.
I love Russell Wilson.
Love him.
Russell Wilson, fantastic pick. We all agree? We all agree?
We all agree.
All agree. That's how good Russell Wilson is to the Seattle
And
offense.
they just added Jadeveon Clowney. If they're going to make some noise, this is going to be the year they're going to do it.
They're going all in. They're going all in this year. They're going full Coach Tortorella. They're all in.
We're all in.
Amen. I mean, in my opinion, Russell Wilson's MVP every single year, but it's like kind of a media
With
thing.
how little he's had on that
he's like
offense.
definitely the most valuable player to any team. I would say Russell Wilson. So we'll go with the sits. We'll start them off with the sits. I actually have a player on the same team, though, Chris Carson. I think they should don't play him. I don't think the run game, like we said, I think Russell Wilson, it would be more of a pass-heavy game. I think I think they're just going to throw the ball down the field more and not run Chris Carson less in that aspect. But
I think one of the biggest sits, Kyler Murray. Not because I don't believe in Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray has potential to be big time. Kyler Murray has the athleticism and he has the talent. And he showed you that he has that it factor, that that thing that we see in Deshaun Watson, like in the game, Deshaun Watson's doing something. We see that in him. But Baltimore's defense, to kill Baltimore's defense like that, I don't know. It's not that I don't believe in Kyler Murray. Baltimore's defense is big time. He's going to have to throw into a secondary with Earl Thomas. The pass rush is going to be on him. It's going to be hard, especially because wide receiver, other than Larry Fitz, who's he got?
Exactly.
They don't got John Brown anymore. He's all the way in Buffalo. And you have David Johnson, but the jury's still out on him on whether or not that one season was the normal versus the aberration. So I definitely got to go with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I am going to go with Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been fantastic. He's an average quarterback. He's doing pretty good. But with Todd Gurley now, as the running back, I think they're going to be running the ball efficiently. Like I said, 180 rushing yards against the Saints last week. And Jared Goff is not going to be passing the ball that often as well. But also, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins last week.
Sit him?
I would have sit him as well because he only had 10 passes. 10 passes.
Touchdown, 100 yards, 98.
98 passing yards, and 8 of them were completed. So, I mean, that's a pretty good performance for a quarterback, but I would definitely sit him.
I have a surprising sit. I mean, sometimes I'm known for hot takes, but usually the hot takes turn into cold options because I'm just right all the time. No, Devonta Adams, sit him. I don't think he's going to be able to. He didn't do anything last week against Chicago's defense. I don't think he's going to be able to perform next week. I mean, Devonta Adams, he's going to be double covered. Minnesota's going to know how to take him out of the game. Great defense there, Minnesota. I can't stress enough. I think I'm high on Minnesota. I'm always high on Kirk Cousins. So I'm just going to hop on the other side of the ball there. I think great secondary there in Minnesota as well. You got Xavier Rhodes. Harrison Smith's still there. I think they'll shut down Devonta Adams. A big game from all the other who-knows-name wide receivers there in Green Bay. I think Jimmy Graham can have a good game. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers ain't going to ball out. I'm saying Devonta Adams is not going to be that guy catching all those balls.
Also, Jimmy Graham, another player I left on my bench last week. 12 points off the bench.
I left him on my bench. That's what lost me.
You made me happy right there,
Thanks,
Taylor.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Because you finally got over the hump of hating on Aaron Rodgers. You can finally admit he's gonna ball. He's going up against Minnesota. That was against Chicago's defense. You got Khalil Mack and those boys coming after you. That's a real defense. I mean, arguably the best. I think the best in the NFL because of the way they get to the quarterback. But Devonta Adams, I think he is going to get some action, but I agree more Jimmy Graham. I think Jimmy Graham's starting to find his niche in there because
100%.
Aaron Rodgers hasn't really been much of a tight end quarterback. I mean, Martellus Bennett, when he went there, his production went way down from Tom Brady when he was there. So it's curious to see how that's going to go. Minnesota's defense is big time. I agree. So he's definitely going to be an interesting one to see. I could see your point on Devonta Adams because, like you said, that secondary, you got Harrison Smith and those boys back there. They're for real.
They are for real. All right, we running a little bit low here on time, so we will go up with the player that you definitely nobody had on the team, waiver wire, you need to pick up.
I got Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota. Only owned by 8% of players, 8% of leagues in ESPN, and had a big game last week, 248 yards and 3 touchdowns. And mind you, he is playing against the Colts this week, so maybe another big game for him. I like Marcus Mariota as a nice little, even as a backup. I mean, he's a solid backup quarterback if you're looking for a backup. But yeah, Marcus Mariota, pick him up right now.
Giovanni Bernard.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with the Bengals because I have more faith in them this season. They showed me week 1 that they can compete. They almost beat Seattle, and we all think Seattle's a competitor, right?
Yeah.
We all think they're going to make some noise. They're making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Seattle's making the playoffs. So Joe Mixon just went out with an ankle injury, in case any of you did not know. Going to be out for a little bit. And Giovanni Bernard's gotten some playing time. Last year in 2018, he had 13.5 carries and 6.5 targets on the field when he takes some time. Giovanni Bernard can play. When we saw him and they did the running back by committee with him and Jeremy Hill, it was quite effective. So Giovanni Bernard can ball, and he's not going to have to split the reps with anybody. Pick up Giovanni Bernard. Let's see how they do this week.
All right, now I'm going to stick with the hometown Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben loves a security blanket. He has to find a big one this year, so I think it's going to be in Vance McDonald. Look for him in the red zone. Big Ben likes to force balls a little bit. He was forcing to Heath Miller. Last year he said he was forcing too many to AB. Look for Juju in the red zone. Now I think this season he's going to be finding Vance McDonald in the red zone, specifically red zone offense. I don't think he's been catching too many balls, but hopefully they're in the end zone.
Well, especially with Juju now questionable, placed on the questionable list, he's definitely going to have to spread the ball because even if he does play, he's not going to be 100%.
Absolutely.
All right, and the last but not least, we have the big hit juggernaut of the week. I don't even know if I should start with mine because the studio is going to burn down when I say Antonio Brown's going to ball out. I think he's going to have 4. I'm saying right now, Antonio Brown, 12 catches, 4 touchdowns, 175 yards.
Man, I mean, I agree. I think Antonio Brown, if he does play and he doesn't get in the way of his own success like he seems to keep doing.
Seems to be doing, yeah.
I definitely think, I think realistically 130 and 2 touchdowns is a realistic thing we could expect. Amari Cooper, the Cowboys, if the Cowboys are actually going to put some substance to all that talking and puffing their chest out that they do every year, I hate Cowboys fans. I'm sure anyone who watches the Big Hit knows that. This is their year. They got Zeke. They finally fixed the contract negotiations. They got Jalen Smith. All those guys, Collins, all signed. Dak, but not only that, not only is Amari Cooper big time, we all saw that last year. They balled against the Giants last week, killed them. Dak's trying to get a contract. He's trying to get his money, so he's out to prove a point. 100%. Dak hasn't missed a single game. Dak wants to show he's been a model citizen, and all these other guys have gotten the money, and not him. Dak's looking to prove a point. It's going to be a good game. They're going up against a divisional rival, and it's the Redskins. They gave up over 30 points against the Eagles. They're going to give up some big points.
Deshaun Jackson tore it up.
Amari Cooper's going to tear it up.
100%. Anybody on that offense, I'm sorry, Dak, Amari, Zeke, 100%.
Yeah, so my big juggernaut, I'm going to go with Super Cam Newton. Cam Newton this week. I like Cam Newton against that Tampa Bay defense. I don't think the Tampa Bay defense is as good as many people expect it to be or want it to be, but I think Cam Newton, he's going to have a big performance this game. I think it's going to be a blowout as well. I think Cam Newton is going to torch the Tampa Bay offense, the Tampa Bay defense, and I expect Carolina to run away with that game.
Assuming he's healthy and his shoulder isn't bugging him, because I mean that shoulder still is a question mark. Had surgery on it, and that is a marquee part of the body when you're throwing the ball. So if his shoulder's not right, put a little asterisk by Steven's pick. His shoulder ain't right, little different story.
Yeah.
But guess what? Everybody watching, take this to the bank as soon as you see it, because what we say is always right. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Steve. Thank you to everybody in the back. Thank you, everybody editing this video. Cameraman, camera woman. Shout out to Katie Dotts over there. And I think this first episode of The Big Hit was a big hit. We knocked it out of the park. Great job, boys. See you next week.
Hey! 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 Hey!
Hi.
Hey! Matt Chips here with something special just for you. Press Start! Press Start is the most prestigious, hilarious, and entertaining TV show ever seen on air. You want to watch? Here's what you do. Grab a TV, grab a remote, and turn it to... And there you have it. Delicious gaming and nerdy content right there in front of you. Bring the wife, bring the kids, bring your friends, bring your dog, your dad, your mom. Sit them all down and watch Press Start.
I don't mind press start, but I really prefer with a.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty cool.
Yeah, press start's pretty cool.